Are you feeling discouraged or frustrated or unsure if wearing your natural curls is even worth it? If you've been watching this beginner curl series, we've already done our first wash day routine and started the curl recovery process. And now you're probably noticing that your results might be inconsistent. Maybe you've had a few good wash days and several frustrating ones in between. This is the phase where most people start second guessing everything and getting discouraged. But before you quit or go buy another product and completely change up your routine, you just need clarity. If you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Gina, and here we talk all things naturally curly. And I'm also a curl coach who helps my clients with this exact process in my program. And in this video, I'm walking you through my Fair Shot framework, which is a series of questions to ask yourself to see, are you forcing your curls, or if you're just feeling discouraged and there's actually hope for your dream curls. Let's walk through a few checks to determine if you've actually given your curls a fair shot. The first thing you need to ask yourself before giving up on your curls is, have you been wearing your natural curls consistently without straightening them and without hiding them? If you answer no to this question, this might look like occasionally going back to straightening your hair, maybe for a special event because you don't quite feel comfortable wearing it curly yet, or maybe you go back and forth because you have a couple of bad wash days and you just can't bear to have another one. Maybe you wear your hair pulled back tightly to hide a bad wash day or just to not bother with your curls, so you wear it up all the time. And I have been here before when I was still wearing my hair straight all the time and going back and forth between straight and curly. I did not feel confident in my natural curls. Every time I would wear it curly, it just didn't really curl up. It was very frizzy, not to mention very hard to manage, and it didn't last. This left me feeling very discouraged to where I just wanted to pick up the straightener again the next wash day. This is what I like to call the damage cycle, where you really get stuck on this hamster wheel of constantly straightening your hair and wearing it curly, and then you don't like how it looks when it's curly, so then you go back to straightening it, which damages it further and makes it not look good when it's curly. So you see what I mean? You kind of get stuck on this cycle until something changes. Now, this doesn't mean that you can never straighten your hair again, but you've got to get your hair to a healthy state, which takes a long time, and we'll talk about that. But once your hair is healthy, you can certainly experiment with straight styles without damaging your hair. But when you're in this very fragile state, you really have to be consistent. Now, I wasn't necessarily someone who would pull my hair back all the time. I mean, sometimes on a bad wash day, but I've seen this a lot with my clients who are new to wearing their curls, or maybe they just didn't really embrace their curls, like they would just kind of wear their hair pulled back. This can also lead to long-term curl memory loss, just meaning that your hair is not used to being worn curly. So when you do wear it curly, it falls really easily and it doesn't necessarily hold, so then you don't like your results either. So even though in that case your hair is not damaged, it still has lost its curl memory because you're not wearing your curls consistently. If you answered yes to this consistency question, then that means that you're doing several curly wash days throughout the week, you're not straightening in between, and you're actually wearing your curls out. Now, this can definitely be very uncomfortable, especially if your curls don't look perfect every day and it really bothers you when things don't look like how you want. But it's very normal to have those inconsistent wash days, especially in the beginning. So if you have those bad hair days, instead of pulling your hair back tightly, what you could do is wear your hair up in a loose bun or a loose ponytail. The key is to just hide problem areas without completely stretching out your curls. I totally know this is tough with waves and loose curls. They do get stretched, but just not having that tension on them can really help retain some of that curl memory. So still style your curls as much as you can without completely redoing them every day, but in between, instead of just completely restyling and soaking your hair down, you could wear a headband to just get your hair out of your face and maybe hide some areas that are looking a little bit stretched. Again, you could wear it up in that loose bun or ponytail, or maybe use some clips to hide it. There are other ways to just get through that awkward phase. Then you could also refresh. So if you do need to touch up with a little bit of water, keep it minimal when you're doing those refreshes instead of a full soak down. That's going to prevent that damage in your hair that can come from completely soaking it down and kind of working through the hair too much. And then you're able to extend your wash days. It's not gonna look perfect. And that's another thing that people have to get used to when they first start wearing their curls, is it doesn't look like wash day every single day, and that's completely normal. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about giving your hair enough stability to reveal what it naturally does. If styling your curls feels exhausting, I have a couple tips for you in just a little bit if you stay tuned on how to simplify your wash day. Next question to ask yourself to determine if you actually have more potential in your curls is, has your hair actually recovered from past heat damage, from straightening all the time or wearing blowouts, or maybe chemical damage or highlighting and bleach damage? If you answered no to that question, then some signs that you might have damage in your hair include having looser, limp curls that are not quite at your natural curl pattern. And if you're not even sure what your natural curl pattern is at this point, I'll show you how to try and bring that out more. But basically, if you're seeing like a natural curl come out of your root, but your ends are very straight, you've got those straight ends, that's a big sign of damage on your ends. You can see where your natural curls are growing in, but then the rest is kind of limp and straight. Maybe you have a lot of breakage happening. You see a lot of short hairs all over, or if you look closely at the ends of your hair, you can see split ends. Your hair gets dry very easily and is very frizzy, no matter how much styling or no matter what products that you use. And your hair just doesn't hold a curl. It doesn't really last through the end of the day. But the truth is, damaged hair cannot perform like healthy hair. So you really have to adjust your expectations if you still have damage. When you style your hair curly when it's damaged, it's not going to hold its curl as long. It's going to dry out faster, so it might not last as long in terms of frizz and that moisture in your hair. And it might not curl up as well as somebody that has healthy hair. But that's okay. This is all part of the process. The key is just to get your hair styled to its current full potential, which is something I talk a lot about here and with my clients, is let's do everything we can to try and bring out as much curl as possible right now, continue with our damage recovery process, and then you will eventually see your curls' natural full potential. When I was in this phase, I definitely had hair blindness, and by this I mean I thought that my curls looked good, but I desperately needed a major haircut. I was definitely prolonging the process, and when I had this highlight damage in my hair, it was so stringy and frizzy. It's like I either had frizz, or if I tamed that frizz with really strong hold, then it just looked crunchy and I couldn't get the cast out and it looked stringy. I don't know, it was this weird in between where I couldn't just have soft bouncy curls. It was either crunchy and stringy or it was frizzy and stringy. And that's a really frustrating place to be, especially when you feel like you have to fix it every day. I was really holding on to damage because I didn't want to lose length. And I'm gonna show you a photo of when I finally got most of that damage cut off. There was still a little bit of the highlights on the ends, and even just that little bit of highlight damage on the ends made it so hard to style. It just tangled more. It didn't hold up. Like I would put strong hold gel on the ends and then it would just look frizzy after a couple of hours. But once I finally got that last bit of highlight damage cut off, it was so much easier to manage. I could go longer in between my wash days and I didn't feel like I had to refresh all the time. And you can still have great curls if your hair is short. It's going to grow back as long as you're taking care of it. You'll be so much better off with shorter, healthier curls instead of long, damaged curls. Just trust me. If you answered yes to this question about damage, so some signs that your hair is actually healthy is your hair has good curl retention, meaning it bounces back. Now, obviously not everyone has bouncy curls. Some of you have waves and loose curls, but what you want to look for is after your hair dries or when you're styling it, it does return to its natural curl pattern. So even if that's wavy, it might look straight when it's wet, but then you actually see that wave form when it dries. That's that bounce back, even if you don't have like a spiral that bounces. You can definitely still have some natural breakage, but it's very minimal. Your hair is actually growing and you're retaining that length. So when you grow it out, it does get longer. It doesn't just keep getting shorter. That's a sign of breakage. And your curl pattern holds better with less effort. So you are getting through the end of the day. Now it's still normal for waves and loose curls to really loosen up throughout the week, but at least you're getting to the end of the day with a somewhat similar curl pattern that you started with. So if you are still in this recovery phase, please keep in mind that this is normal. It's just part of the process. You have to get through that awkward phase and you have to trust the process. So the next one has a lot to do with if you're forcing your curls or not and how you style your curls. But I want you to ask yourself, am I styling my curls based on my natural curl pattern, or am I styling it based on what I want it to be? Does my styling technique actually fit my natural curl pattern? So this can go two ways that I've often seen with my clients. One being they're not doing enough, so they're not fully styling their hair to their current full potential. Maybe this looks like they're raking in their product and they're not really scrunching enough. They're not spending a lot of time styling and they're kind of rushing, and then maybe they're just air drying. And then they don't like their results, but that's because you haven't done enough to really bring it out. Like our curls do stretch out when they get wet, so we have to encourage them and also lock in that shape. And if you did that, you might really like your curls. You might not hate how they look once they're dried. Then on the other end of the spectrum, I've seen clients that are doing way too much. They're trying to manufacture a curl pattern that doesn't naturally exist, or they'll tell me that they just want their hair to look like mine, so they copy my exact routine, but that's for my curl pattern, and maybe they have waves or loose curls. And I have found that with a looser curl pattern, less manipulation is better. You don't have to do an extravagant styling routine by any means. And if you are doing all of these steps, then you might burn yourself out because it might feel exhausting when you're doing all of these steps and it's not really paying off. I've seen this with a lot of my new clients that have waves and loose curls, and I'm so glad that they are experimenting with ways to really bring out their curls. But you have to properly test that to see, did my hair actually look curlier or wavier when I did these, or did it look kind of the same? For example, I had a client who had short wavy hair, and she was doing a lot of sectioning, like many sections, even more than I do. And she was also brush coiling. So that's like actually picking up tiny sections with your brush and coiling it around the brush handle. And I didn't really notice where I was seeing much of a difference in her curls after she styled. So I asked her to just test a routine where she just raked in her product and spent more time just scrunching and not over manipulating it, and then hover diffusing a bit, maybe scrunching a little bit. And her curls still looked really good. In fact, they looked better, and her routine took half of the time, actually less than half. It was way quicker and easier, and it was more sustainable. And she realized she didn't need to do all of that. So it's just finding that middle ground, experimenting, proper testing, seeing if it actually makes a difference, and if it doesn't, scrap it. You don't have to copy every routine step by step. Just to summarize some techniques that I've noticed that work for different hair types: if you have looser curls and waves, a simple rake and scrunch, scrunching with a lot of water and not over manipulating the hair is often better. And then if you do have more of a coily curl pattern, or you actually have spiral to your curls, then you might need to do more spiraling techniques like finger coiling and brush styling. So think about the routines you usually see me do. Those are to bring out my natural curls. Otherwise, they'll just kind of look undefined and frizzy because I've kind of brushed through them, and I need more than scrunching to make my curls look decent. So for those tighter curl patterns, you can definitely do a little bit more, whereas waves and loose curls, the simpler the better, and that's honestly a lot quicker and easier to style. If you found this video useful so far, be sure to hit the subscribe button below. It's completely free. We just have 2 more questions to ask ourselves whether if we are giving our curls a fair shot. And the fourth one is, am I making strategic adjustments after I wash my hair, or am I reacting irrationally or out of frustration? Reacting instead of being strategic might look like you get one bad wash day and then you just want to change everything. Or maybe you rewash every single day to try and just find a routine that works for you. And that's not necessarily always bad. You definitely learn a lot quicker, but you might be causing more damage and manipulation to your hair that's not needed. Or maybe you're buying a ton of products hoping that you will just find the product that fixes your problems. But the thing is, you can't see patterns if you keep resetting the experiment. And sometimes this testing phase feels like things are getting worse before it gets better. And early progress is often inconsistent and not linear. This was definitely the case when I first started styling my curls. It was up and down all the time. I would make good progress, and then I would have a setback to where I felt like I wasn't getting good results. And then you become hyper aware that something is wrong with your hair, or you're just not getting something right. And that might be the case, but when you become overly critical with your hair like that, you just want to jump around and try and fix things instead of staying consistent. I had this exact conversation with one of my newer clients, and it's something that I see happens a lot after like our first month together, where they're starting to see some progress, but then they start second guessing everything because they might have one bad wash day. And one thing that I try and do with my clients as part of the process is we figure out a routine that works and gives them good results. And then I ask them to repeat that routine and don't change anything. And if we do tweak something, we only change one thing at a time. And I have to kind of talk them off the ledge sometimes when they ask me if they should change up their products. Or sometimes they'll come to me and they'll say, sorry, Gina, but I completely changed everything and I scrapped my routine and I tried something new and now I don't like my results. Or now I don't know why my curls don't look good, and I don't know why either because you changed so many things. So I really try and keep people on track. So you just have to trust the process and know that what you're experiencing and what you're feeling is normal, and react more strategically versus kind of out of frustration or being impatient. So if you answered yes to this question, then that's great. You're keeping things consistent, you're changing one thing at a time, and you're accepting that not every wash day is gonna look perfect. Earlier I mentioned how there's ways to kind of hide a bad wash day, and you'll definitely want to implement those if something just didn't turn out right, instead of wanting to go just completely scrap your routine or to restyle. Definitely incorporate some of those to just try and get through that bad wash day until your next wash day where you can reset again. Question number 5 to ask yourself to know if your curls have hope is, have all of these checks been in place at the same time for several months? So it takes a long time to get your curls back and to start seeing consistency. And we just talked about the importance of being patient, and that definitely applies here, because if you haven't given it enough time, you're not going to see consistent results yet. Unfortunately, curly hair does take time, and especially if you think about how long it takes to grow out your damage. If you have damage, say from here down on your hair, maybe you've grown it out this far, it's gonna take several months, depending on how quick your hair grows, for that damage to finally reach the bottom and for you to finally get it cut off. That's why I talked about it's really important to get as much cut off as you're comfortable with, just to speed up that process. But even if you get all your damage cut off, there's still that curl memory at play. You have to be styling it consistently for a long period of time to actually see results. Now you're probably wondering, well, how long do I have to actually wait? Well, if you're doing everything right and you're following the process, then you can probably see good results within a couple of months. So this is why my initial curl coaching program is about 3 months, because I've noticed that that is the sweet spot for getting people a good starting point and getting them on their feet and getting a good consistent wash day. And usually by that point, if they're following everything like they're supposed to, they usually are starting to get to day 2 or day 3 without having to refresh. And that's how I know that they are on the right track. Please keep in mind when I mention longevity, this is going to vary greatly based on your hair pattern and based on where you are in your journey. Some people are going to naturally have to refresh a lot. I'm just saying a general rule of thumb. I don't want to see clients having to completely restyle or rewash every single day. So some signs that you might be expecting good results too soon is judging how your curl pattern looks after maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe you've only had a couple wash days under your belt, or expecting a dramatic visible difference after one wash, or assuming that your waves or loose curls are going to look or behave like tighter curls. I see this a lot. Or maybe you had 2 weeks of consistency, but then you went back to straightening. You kind of reset the clock at that point. Time only works when everything else is stable. It's now been 10 years since I last straightened my hair, but I'm definitely not saying it's gonna take you 10 years to get your hair back. For me, like I said, it was all over the place. It was not linear. If I had just been more consistent and followed the process that I have in place now, I probably could have gotten results much quicker. So it took me a long time. It was definitely a long process, but I'm glad I went through that process because I've shared my journey along the way here with you. So if you do feel like you've given it time, maybe you've given it 3+ months, you've done your damage recovery plan that we talked about, you're using the right styling technique, you've been strategic with your adjustments, and you've given it that gradual time, and you're still not seeing the results that you're hoping for, like maybe you're hoping that your curl pattern looks a little bit tighter or more defined, you may have already reached your hair's natural full potential. So it might not get any curlier. You might have already styled it for its curliest state. You've done all the recovery, you've done the work, and this is as good as it gets. But you can't judge that too soon, and most people haven't given it a fair shot yet to really determine that. So to answer the overall question of this video, are you forcing your curls, or are you just feeling discouraged and there is more hope for your curls? If you answered no to a lot of these questions and you haven't had all of these things in place for some time, you're not forcing your curls, you're still building your foundation. And discouragement is normal in this phase. A lot of people want to quit here. They want to give up because they can't get past that inconsistency and they get frustrated and impatient. But if you've done all of these things to determine that you have given it a fair shot, then you have clarity. You have that clarity to know that this is your hair's full potential. And if you're not happy with that, or there's a mismatch between what you're experiencing as your full potential and what you want out of your curls, then you have to be truthful with yourself. Is this texture with this routine something that I want to embrace? Or is straightening all the time easier for you? I've said this before, but you have to choose your heart. Both options can be difficult, especially straightening every day if you live somewhere where it can be damp a lot and it doesn't stay straight, or if you find you're having to touch it up every day, there's still a lot of effort involved with keeping your hair straight. And then with curly hair, there's obviously some effort involved with styling your hair curly. So if you're feeling discouraged right now, I just wanted you to hear this, that you don't have to give up yet. There is likely still hope if you're following the process. There are not strict rules with curly hair. We talked about that in the curly contradictions video in this series. It's all about having that clarity recovery, and it's all about making your routine easier so that way it fits with your lifestyle. When I was talking about choosing your heart and how curly hair can be difficult, my goal is really to try and simplify that to where it's not so difficult. Your curls are not running your life. There is hope for that, and I try and get my clients to that and hopefully my viewers to that as well through my content of just simplifying it to where it's not harder to wear your natural curls the way you want them. So if you've already tried to work through this on your own and you feel like you've reached that breaking point, now is the time to get that support, especially if you're wanting to kind of fast track your journey to recovery. I recommend checking out my curl coaching program if you haven't already, because this is exactly what I do with my clients, but on a more personalized level, customized to you, and you have that plan in place to keep you on track and that guidance along the way, because it can be difficult doing this on your own. As I mentioned, I did a lot of this on my own through my own research, watching tons of free content online, and it took me years. And some of my clients that have come to me right in the beginning, they get results much faster compared to someone that's really trying to just DIY it. So if that's the point that you're at, you can check out the details about the program below. Also, if you are wanting help with your curls now and you want in the curl coaching program, make sure that you sign up before March 15th. That's when enrollment closes, or it closes when seats fill. So the sooner you can get in, the better, because we kick off in March with our spring program. If you're someone who prefers to do it yourself and maybe you're not at that point yet, I definitely recommend watching my beginner curl series. This video is part of this series. I'll have it linked right here on the screen if you want to watch through that playlist, but you can see how to wash and style your curls so that way they last. And it's very simplified for beginners, so it's not going to be an extensive, difficult routine. We've also talked about your damage recovery plan, so that's going to be key for getting your curls back. So I will talk to you over in those videos. Bye, everyone.